We Got This Africa, proudly brought to you by Frytol. Frytol, you deserve to be well.
Girl, listen.
Giving birth is one of the many wonders of life. It's a spiritual and physical experience. It's a moment that many women long for and a moment that many moms boast of. And I know that there are many people who think about giving birth and then they just rather not think about it because it can be scary. The truth is, I have friends and cousins and people in my life who have gone to the labor ward and did not come back. I've heard babies cry in the labor ward and there's no mother to hold them. Giving birth is a beautiful thing, but it's also a very scary thing. And there are so many tales in the labor ward that don't come out of there because we don't like to share. Today on We Got This Africa, we will share. We'll say it all, everything you need to know and more. Today on the show, my name is Naa Ashorkor and I'm going to be chatting with some 3 cool moms. Stay tuned.
We got this.
If I got a CD for every time I was asked, did you do C-section or did you push? I probably would be a very rich woman by now. It's a question that a lot of people feel that they should ask you once they learn that you've given birth. But it's not a question that new moms like to be asked. I'm chatting about birth experiences today on the show with Appioko, Mary, and Brenda. Ladies, you're welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Very well.
So who wants to have another baby?
Well, I'm done.
Okay. Hands up if you want more babies. Okay. Applaudissez. Part of you guys. So let me talk to those of you who want to go back there. How was it? Was it fun?
It wasn't fun, like fun, but it was one experience. It was something else, because
Okay.
usually people don't tell you what to expect when you take
When you're expecting.
yeah, when you're expecting. There's a book like that,
Yeah,
what to expect
when you're expecting. Yeah.
And for me, I mean, I didn't plan on, giving birth immediately after I got married. So I got pregnant 6 months after I got married.
Okay.
And it was like, okay, I'm not ready for this really because I'm young and I still wanted to give myself time to be able to, plan and then say, okay, I'm ready to have a baby. But I guess we are never ready, are we?
I know. Even when you say it's time.
Yeah.
You really aren't ready. Yeah.
So yeah, for me it was, I mean, the first trimester was challenging because I was working at the bank, Fidelity Bank, and at the time, no one is going to really, treat you special because, you are pregnant. And so it was the normal routine. I was a teller, so I had to sit down for long hours and, really count money, do my normal, stuff and all that. But what I remember helped me was that, the work pressure actually took my mind off the pains and the cramps and all those things. Yeah, so it made me feel like, okay, I got this.
Yeah, you got this.
Yeah.
Because she got this.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
did you guys find, were there any shockers for you guys? We are told a lot of things. Our mothers tell us the joys of motherhood and how great it is, and the glow that you get. Did you get a glow?
Which glow?
Did you get a glow?
I got a glow.
Oh, do you? Well, you
In
still
my
have it.
second trimester, I got a glow. I was
Okay.
like, you see me and you even think that I'm pregnant.
Graceful.
I got that
Yeah,
too.
yeah. But my third trimester, it was
Up until the 8th month.
Well, I look like they had sprinkled a lot of charcoal. And
I got, so with my son, I got a big nose.
Very big.
Yeah, the proverbial big nose. Yeah, proverb. It's real
it's
stuff.
real.
Big nose. I became darker.
Yeah.
And
You got the sprinkles
yeah,
too.
different colors.
Yeah.
Skin was scaly,
Yeah.
makeup wouldn't stay
Yeah.
anywhere. And then on my legs, I got these huge stretch marks. And
On your
because
legs?
yes. I don't know where they came from. And because I'm light skinned, they were really red, very vibrant.
Wow.
So I couldn't wear skirts. I would do trousers, tights, mom jeans, all that.
Mom
Yeah.
jeans.
Wow.
Charlie, but you know what? Like, there are some perks that come with pregnancy, right?
Yeah.
There's some perks that come with pregnancy, and you keep getting the perks until the baby comes out.
Yeah.
Let's go there. So, let's talk about labor. Like, did you all go into labor?
Oh yes.
I did go out
I
to
did.
I didn't go into labor.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
With my son, I was induced.
Okay.
Yeah, my daughter, I went into labor.
How was it?
You know, I didn't know what to expect.
When you were
That was-
expecting?
Because with my son, so what happened was at 35 weeks, my placenta had begun to calcify. So what that means was lots of calcium and it was dying basically. So my OBGYN told me, he said, look, if you hit 40 on the dot and you haven't gone into labor, we're going to induce. And you know, they tell you, oh yeah, and we put a gel up there, but you don't really know what that means. So what I didn't know was that they administer the gel in 3 parts. So they insert it up there into your nice lady parts. So they do 1 dose. After 2 hours, they do a second dose. And after another 2 hours, they do the 3rd dose. After they did the first dose, I started dilating. And so all the, you know, they tell you, okay, so contractions will start, maybe start from 2 hours apart, then you move to 1, and everything just started at once. And I didn't have time to get into the pain. The pain couldn't grow on me. And so
it just hit you?
It just hit me. So this was from about 8 p.m. on the 9th of November. My son was born on the 10th of November, on the 9th. And until 11:45 the next day, I was just going through this pain.
Did you sleep?
I couldn't. It was so intense. And because everything had progressed so quickly, I couldn't take pain meds.
Wow.
Are you allowed to take pain medication while in labor?
You can, but it's at a certain point. So beyond 5 centimeters, they won't administer. Unless it's getting to the point where, so I experienced this with my daughter. I went into labor. I didn't know what to expect, like I said, because that hadn't happened with my son. I was eating some quick baby. Okay. Yeah, and I had taken my leave from work, because for both of them, I worked to the end. So my daughter went on leave on the 8th of April, and then I went into labor on the 10th, the morning of the 10th. So I was sitting at home thinking that, actually, I finally get to rest after going to work, keeping these long nights, because I work in media, I do other things. Charlie, the contraction started. So what's the meaning of this? And I had gone for my antenatal the day before, and the doctor had told me I had about 2 weeks to go.
Wow.
So I called him. He said, look, you're in labor. Just chill for about an hour. Let's see what it looks like. I called him back in an hour. He said, are things progressing? I said, come over. So I went in.
Did you drive?
I wanted to. I almost did. But so the way my house is set up, my cousin, who is more like a brother, he's built this apartment complex, and then different parts of the family all live with our families in the complex.
Okay.
So his wife was at home.
Okay.
And so she took me.
Okay.
And now we got there, and you know, I went through the motions, and at a point the contractions were really intense, and I have a high tolerance for pain. My husband had come in at that point, and I said, I wanted gas. Now this is gas that they had told us that if you take it, we're charging you 800 cedis for every 30 minutes.
Like oxygen?
Yes, to just gas you out. And when I said I wanted it, my husband knew I was in pain, because me, I don't joke with money like that. Yeah, I spend money very wisely. He said, you want the gas? I said, okay, bring it. Now we did that. I still couldn't get over the pain. So then what's my OBGYN? So at that point I was with the midwife. OBGYN came in and he says, you know what, contractions are very intense, but the baby isn't pushing down. So we need to give you more oxytocin, which intensifies these contractions, which are supposed to be intense, and then give you an epidural. At this point,
Epidural.
Charlie, at this point, my contractions were less than 2 minutes apart. And I had to sit still for them to put, you know what?
Yeah, you
that
have to
huge
sit and
needle
then...
in your spine. And
Did you know anything about how the epidural was happening? Did you know?
No.
Did you have an epidural?
No.
You didn't? You had an
I had
epidural?
a spinal anesthesia.
Okay. So you didn't know how it would be
I didn't know how it would be administered.
Story of my life.
I didn't know. All they said was, oh, we inject it into the spinal area. But as to how that is done,
They don't
that you
tell
have to
you.
sit still.
And
that
bend
is-
your back.
Yeah.
They don't tell you. So, I mean, this pain is that I have to sit still. And if you move, that's your spine gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally a matter of life and death.
real.
Yeah.
You know, so I took that. And then eventually I became a bit numb, so I couldn't feel. I mean, I could feel waves. I don't know how to explain it. It's like you feel something rushing through you, and then you go into this trance, and then but you don't feel pain anymore. And when my daughter came out, the reason apparently she wasn't coming down was because the umbilical cord was wrapped around her head. Yeah. So that's pretty much it.
That's intense.
It is.
So they had to unwrap her, and she was fine.
She was fine. She was fine. She hadn't lost oxygen or anything, you know. So the midwife literally said to me, she said, "Look, do you pray?" And I said, "Yes, I do." She said, "Look, this is a miracle baby."
Wow.
Because in other cases, this baby would have been sitting in an incubator for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow. So you also went into labor?
Yeah, I did.
You had a
go into
similar
labor.
experience?
Yeah, something similar. But mine started somewhere around 8 in the morning. We're about going to church, and
Okay.
and husband was like, "Let's go to the hospital." And I'm like, "Oh no, we have to go to church. I need to give this testimony in church,
Okay.
so I can't afford to miss it." And he said, "Let's just go to the hospital." So we went to the hospital, and they checked. They were like, "You started dilating already, so you have to stay." And I'm like, "No, I want to go to church." And they're like, "Calm down."
While in the hospital?
Yes.
You still wanted to go to church? What church do you go to?
Redeem.
Redeem.
It was first Sunday of the month. And I needed to give that particular testimony.
And pay your tithes.
So he's like, "Babe, just calm down, stay." Everyone spoke to me. If I was going back, I needed to write a report saying that I left on my own will, not by them. So eventually, I was convinced to stay, so I stayed. I was in labor like the whole day up until 6.
Was it painful?
It was very painful.
But you still wanted to go to church?
At that point, no.
You knew
I knew that I
it
needed to be
wasn't a great
there.
idea.
So I stayed up until that time. So at that time, I was 2 centimeters dilated. So from 8 to 6, I was just a centimeter dilated. So the pain was huge, and I stayed. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sit. But I was losing strength. I felt maybe I couldn't push at some point. So I'm like, "Get me fufu, get me banku. I needed to eat something."
You were hungry?
I was hungry.
Oh.
And I just had this feeling like I'm losing strength. Would I be able to push at the end of the day?
Are you allowed to eat before you push?
I ate.
Okay.
I don't know if it's allowed, if it's not allowed. I did eat. So he brought me banku,
Okay.
and I ate. They're like, Are you actually in labor? And I'm like, "You actually have no idea." So I'll pause, and then later on I'll continue. So at 4 in the morning, then the baby's head was
From 8 a.m. that you went to the hospital?
4 a.m.
4
in the
a.m.
morning.
the next day?
The next day. So I couldn't sleep. My mom was like, "Don't cry. If you cry, if you don't cry, it makes no difference. So you see, you know what? Don't just cry." So I had that at the back of my mind, and when the tears is like this, I'm like, "Go back." I'm not crying. So that's how it was. And then eventually I pushed once. The second time, baby came out.
Was it painful?
The pushing wasn't so painful, but the pain, the dilation period was what was really, really painful.
I think you find that, you know how you watch movies and they're telling them, "Don't push yet, it's not time to push."
Yeah.
You realize that pushing actually relieves you of the pain.
Yeah,
So you want
true.
to do it?
So you want to
Yes,
push,
it
but
happened
you
to me
can't,
as well.
you know?
It
And so
happened to
you're
me. So they're
10
like,
centimeters.
"Just hold
you
on,
can.
don't push yet."
But my cousin has a different story. She said, so she wanted to go to the bathroom, right? She wanted to go number 2, really bad. And she was told not to do it in the bathroom, but do it in the bed while she was, like on the delivery bed. Because apparently that's sometimes the pressure to push the baby out.
Yeah,
I pooped.
because you use the same muscle.
The same muscle.
the same muscle.
Right.
I pooped. It wasn't just little. It was
It was a lot because
Sorry.
you had banku. You ate proper banku.
was
You had
like,
a proper meal.
"This is."
Oh my goodness. And you know this feeling that they say, did you go into labor too?
No, I didn't. And I wanted to say that Apiako said she was induced, right?
Yeah.
I was induced twice and I didn't feel a thing.
Wow.
Like, they put a medicine called inside me, and it was supposed to actually make me have contractions. I never had contractions. I didn't feel a thing. Okay. So I was walking around in the hospital, and the nurses were all looking at me like, who is this lady? Like, you won't go and lie down, you know? And they did it several times, and one particular nurse said, no, I have to go and lie down. So she does a VE on me, so a vaginal examination on me. So when I went to the ward and she came by my bed, I told her I wasn't psychologically ready. And she added
You're not
that
psychologically ready to have the baby which you were about to have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
What does that mean?
I mean, at that moment, I just felt like, who is this nurse coming to insert her vagina inside me?
Her fingers.
Her fingers inside me, you know. When she, clearly that whole day I had that kind of, you know, because I was induced twice. So, the medicine was put at 6 a.m. in the morning, and then after 4 hours, they checked to see if it's working. So they put another medicine, you know, inside me, and still nothing. I was normal, I was fine. And so they did something else called membrane sweeping, where they put their hand down there to just, you know, try and get the head of the baby to, you know, come. So
I have no idea what you're talking about. Did you know about that?
Yeah,
Okay.
so they did that to me, and then when they did, still the baby wasn't coming. And
Wow.
mind you, I was like 1 centimeter. I was like still
Not
small.
ready.
Yeah, I wasn't ready. And I was like 41 weeks by then. Yeah, so the doctor told me that, you know what, we have to have an emergency C-section. And after the membrane sweeping, my water broke.
Okay.
So my water gushed out in the hospital, and I was in an 8-bedded room. So it was like, I wasn't ready. The environment
people
was so,
were there.
You know, So when the doctor came and said, you know what, your situation is like an aquarium where there's fish in an aquarium, but the water has come out and the fish is still there. And what happens when the fish is still in an aquarium without water? The
That's
baby
a scary
will
thought.
die. Yeah. So I was like, wow. That means my situation is critical.
And you know, they tell you things like that, and it makes you immediately forget about your, you know, sense of privacy and the fact that you're thinking, there's so many people here, and can you do this right now? I'd like us to talk about that right after this. Your privacy and the invasion. The invasion and the nudity and the nakedness and the people, all the people staring and looking and putting hands and stay tuned. This is We Got This Africa, and we're talking birth experiences. We'll be right back.
We got this.
Choosing the right oil makes all the difference. That is why I always choose Frytol. At Wilma, where Frytol is made, each and every worker wakes up with you in mind.
Really?
And for the millions of other homes too. There, the experts ensure every bottle of Frytol is rich with great taste that creates memories to last their lifetime. Frytol is a cholesterol-free oil fortified with vitamin A.
Now I know why you cook with Frytol. Yes, Dad.
Enjoy great tasting meals with Frytol. Frytol. Love your food, love your life. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
We got this.
My mother once told me that when you're in labor and you're on the bed and you're trying to give birth to a child, you don't care who's there or how naked you are. My experience wasn't quite the same. So I tell you guys this, right? This is something my mother said so many times. Like, when you are going to give birth, you don't care who is there. You don't care. You just take off your clothes and you just want this baby out of your body. And when it's all over, you won't remember the pain. Were you guys told that?
Oh, yes.
When it's all over, you will remember the pain. Do you remember the pain?
Oh, very clearly.
I don't remember that.
Well, you have a peculiar story. But did you guys not care that people... Were you naked?
Yeah, I was.
Yes.
Naked? Naked?
At
How many people did you have in the
I was
room?
naked, actually.
Can I remember?
I had 3 people.
3 people in the room?
Yeah.
With my son, it must have been 3
Okay.
initially. And I
Okay.
know at some point it became more.
More people
But at that
started
point, I'm
tripping.
like, you know what?
You didn't care.
I don't care.
How many people did you have in the room?
7. So since
7?
it was
Do you want to know how many people I had in the room?
No.
At first I had 7, and then I had 10, and then I had 14, and then I lost count because I had a lot of people in the room at the time.
Wow.
Because I had a very complicated
Birth.
I had a very complicated. Well, for my first child, there were about 5 people in the room. Okay. So there was I had C-section for both. So my husband was there, and then there were 3 people who did the procedure, and then there was a pediatrician, and then there was someone in the corner. I'm not sure what he was there for. I think he was there for the machines. I don't think it was the medical stuff, but he was there for the machines or something like that. But for my second child, I had a placenta. At first, I had just a placenta previa, which means that the placenta was attached to the uterus. Okay. And then I progressed to placenta accreta, which means that it was like part of the uterus now. And then I progressed to a placenta increta, which means that it had fused. Like was one is like so when I did the scan, you could see it's like fused with it. And then I progressed, and at some point they were like, you know what, we just have to take the baby out. So at 27 weeks, they told me we have to take the baby out. This is your baby's chances of survival. He might not survive at this time after we take him out. So he might also. We'll keep him in an incubator. We'll give him the best care, and the longer he stays in your body, the better. And I was bleeding all the time, as I was just pouring blood like throughout my pregnancy. So, and they were concerned that that could cost me my life. So it could get fatal. So, like, to save your life, we have to take baby out. But if we take baby out, he might not make it. But if we're able to keep him inside you for 1 more day, his chances will increase. 2 more days, better chances. 1 week, even stronger. And they kept injecting this thing that makes his lungs make him able to breathe better. I think something like that. Okay. So when the bleeding stops, then we're happy. The number of times I went to the labor ward, like the theater, for my C-section to be performed, I went at 27 weeks, I went at 29 weeks, I went at 30 weeks, and at 32 weeks, they just had to take him out. And my C-section, you know, sometimes, I think it's one of those things that I have repressed so much that sometimes the memory is even hazy. Like, I don't remember anymore. I don't remember some things anymore because it was such a difficult time for me. I don't actively try to forget it, but I realize how hazy it is because it was so difficult that I just repressed. It's like just repress the memory. So when I finally, it was day for baby to come in the theater, they were going to do my C-section, and because my placenta was increta, they were actually going to prep me for a full hysterectomy. Wow. So, and hysterectomy means they're going to take everything out, womb out, everything out of your body because they can't separate it, and trying to separate it, you can lose your life. But they always tell you that there are chances that we can do it, but the probability that we can do it is low. So, they brought me a psychologist to talk to me about the fact that I can no longer have children, and they talked to me about the fact that, you know, this is what's going to happen to you. We're going to make sure you don't enter menopause immediately. So we're going to try to keep your ovaries. Like, just telling me all of these things. And I was just lying in the bed like, what? I'm only 30. I can't do this. Like, you know, and then they said, it's okay, you know, but you'll be alive. We're just trying to save your life. And so, well, let me just ease your. So at the end of the day, they were able to separate my placenta, so they didn't have to do a hysterectomy. So everything is still in there. So, but here's the deal. On the day of delivery, I went for the epidural. You know, I had it before, and tell you what, they need to tell us how these epidurals are administered because sometimes a shock can just. So here's the deal. If you've never had an epidural, here's what you do. So, and they never let the man, like, well, from my experiences, they keep my husband away during this time. Because they don't think they can take it, but you can. Really? I don't know what the deal is, but they never let the man come in at this point. So, you know, take off all of your clothes, and then you sit like this, right? Then you arch your back like this. And then they put a needle inside your spine. Okay. So they put a needle in, and it's supposed to, like, blow up something inside your spine. And then they inject something in there, and then they pull it out. All this time, you have to be perfectly still. If you move, it can hit a nerve or whatever. So you just have to stay like this while they do it. They did the first one, and I think after some time, you're not supposed to feel anything. I was given spinal anesthesia. I lie down, they chook me with pins. I can still feel the pain. And they have to make sure you don't feel the pain before they cut you. I can still feel the pain. So we go back to the epidural table. Take 2. Wow. Another point, put it in. I go back to the bed, chook. I could still feel the pain. Take 3. Honey, this went on for 2 hours. Wow. I got so many. It was, and my husband all this time couldn't come in, so I was alone. and it was hard. It was really hard. At some point, I was praying to God. Like, I remember once when I went to lie down, I was beginning to go out. Like, I would lie down for a while, and this is like, so I was like stark naked at this time. And at this point, because the epidural wasn't working, I had more doctors coming in. That's why I had so many doctors. So they were calling people to come in. So I had more people coming in, and my legs were up like this. You know the thing. And I was there, and they'll be choking me with things to see if I can feel it, and I couldn't feel anything, and I felt so exposed with all the light. You know, there's light.
Yeah.
I felt like, cover me up.
Yeah.
Or because they were having meetings, they were talking and discussing the matter.
Yeah.
While I just lay there alone, and I was like, can you call my husband to just, because all of you, and they had students in there as well. So it was extremely uncomfortable for me. And at some point, I realized I was going out. And one nurse noticed that I was going out. So they picked me up like this and started hitting me and said, like, wake up, you can't, like, come back to us, or I don't know what they were saying, like, come to us or come back to us or whatever, like trying to get me to wake up, and then I'll wake up and then I'll go out again. So I was going in and out of that. I think that happened about 3 times, and they decided to put me under. And at that time, they were asking me to make that decision. They asked me, they said, the epidural isn't working, the spinal isn't working, we need to take the baby out, so we want to put you under. We normally don't want to do that because if we put you under, the baby will also get some of the anesthesia. Because if we put it inside you, I think the baby also will come out drowsy or something. You know, I don't really remember, but they were trying to explain to me what will happen and get me to give my consent at that time so that they do it. And I said, I don't know. What do you want to do? They said, you have to decide for yourself. I said, call my husband. And then one doctor said, we can't bring him in at this time. And then one doctor said, you know what? Let her husband come for a moment and kiss her goodbye.
Seriously?
Like,
Wow.
They were talking among themselves with their mask on, but I could hear what he said. And I was like, kiss who goodbye? What? Am I going to die now? Because honestly, I felt like my life I felt that this was it.
Yeah.
And I prayed to God to keep my soul.
Yeah.
I prayed to God about my older son.
Yeah.
I prayed about my mother. Like, I knew at that point as I was lying there that it was possible that this was it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was it's a moment I don't think I'll ever forget. And they called my husband in. He came in and he was fully suited for the CS with his everything. I could only see his eyes. And then he gave me a hug because he still had the thing on. And they literally took him out because they needed to put me under. And they put the thing on, and then they counted down. And I woke up. Wow. I remember when I woke up in recovery, my husband was there. I said, am I alive? He said, you're alive. I said, you're sure I'm not dead? Wow. He said, you're not dead. I said, did the baby make it? He said, the baby made it. I said, does he have fingers and toes? And does he have brain function? Is he okay? And he said, let's go to the NICU. So they just wheeled me to the NICU. I remember looking at my son, and I looked at his fingers, 5 fingers, 10 toes, 10 fingers. His lips were full. I asked him, have you done a hearing test? Can he see? Can he hear? Does he have regular brain function? Because I had lost so much blood throughout my pregnancy that I was so scared what might become of the baby. And the fact that I was alive meant that something must have gone wrong with the child, because I knew that one of us would not make it. I was so certain that one of us, something was going to happen. And they said, by the way, we didn't have to do the hysterectomy. And so everything is still in there. And I said, God.
This can only be God.
Yeah, miracle baby.
Yeah,
Charlie,
strong woman now.
I was like, God.
You are.
Very strong.
You are.
This is like, everything was fine, but he was so little. Wow. And he had so many tubes in his nose, in his mouth, on his body. His was transparent. Like, he was so little. You could see
his veins.
You could see everything. And he had so many, and he was just like, like this.
Wow.
And, you know, they were feeding him through tubes and stuff. And I was like, oh my God. I was just happy that he was there and he was fine. Everything was that I was alive, and I didn't care about the scar across my belly, because you know normally it's a bikini line scar, right? But because we were going to have a hysterectomy, they had to go up.
Wow.
So, you know, at first when they told me we were going to cut a bum, I was like, oh, they're going to wear bikinis. Well, I don't even wear bikinis anyway, but I was like, you know, but all those things didn't matter anymore. It was suddenly, Okay, somebody else. Your turn. Your turn. No, you go on. You go on.
That's like a handful. Really.
Yeah.
You're a strong woman now. You're a strong woman.
Aren't we all?
I mean, I remember a lady, 2 ladies, like, okay, so where I was lying in my hospital bed, like 2 ladies after me. Yeah. That lady too was cut like twice, so like this up and across, yeah, and she was in so much pain.
Yeah,
she was in so much pain. So I'm just imagining what you went through.
Issues with people who make very insensitive and ignorant comments, like, "Oh, C-section is an easy way out." It's not. There's no easy way to give birth. There's no easy way to give birth. You know, there isn't, and people say that. People think that, there's this debate about C-section versus vaginal birth, that, when you have a vaginal birth, you're strong and you're a woman. People ask you, if you had a C-section, but a C-section is a surgery. It's a full
major surgery.
And that's your organs at stake. That's somebody, the chances of somebody leaving a scalpel in you, a towel in you. That's you having to be on bed rest for 6 weeks. And you made a point earlier now that up until from the time you take C to the time you go into labor and you give birth, you're a star. Everybody cares about you. But once the baby comes no one cares about the mother anymore.
It's all about the baby. How's baby? How's baby? How's baby? We brought gifts for baby. We brought this. But then it's the point where you might start feeling invisible. And that's the point where you're at your most vulnerable, lowest sometimes, and you need all the attention and love you can get.
But the problem I have is the fact that they don't let the husbands go into the labor with them.
This issue.
And for every hospital I went, the hospital I went to for my antenatal, I had to ask them, if this wasn't allowed, I won't leave bed there. So they said, they do allow it. So I'm like, fine. But unfortunately for me, he got there before. He got there after I had given birth. So I didn't have that.
For my husband was by my side the whole time. He was taking selfies and and I needed that, And it was like in 45 minutes we were done. So I thought it would be the same for my second. Like in 45 minutes, baby was out. I had been, restitched, cleaned up, everything. Even though there were many times when I couldn't breathe, and so I needed oxygen. And there was a point when everything smelled really bad. So they had to stuff some scented wipes on my nose so I could smell that, because I could smell my inside. When they cut me open, I could smell like dead body. Like I could taste it in my mouth. I could taste it and I could smell it. And it was overwhelming. It was more than a feeling or a taste. It was like, it felt like a spiritual. So they had to stuff scented wipes in my nose and around my face so I could smell that. And then my husband was taking selfies, trying to distract me. And that helped a bit. But the second, we didn't let him anywhere close because it was a whole thing. And
so I have a problem with especially our public hospitals in Ghana where, the reason they give you is, there are a lot of women because of the way things are built, and of course if you can't afford a private room, then you're there with 20 other women sometimes, But I keep saying that if you don't have, and this is the reason why we have a lot of medical malpractice when it comes to women and childbirth and anything maternity, if you don't have someone in the room to stand up for you and something goes wrong, at that moment, if they tell you to lick the floor, you just might do it.
Yeah, you'll do it.
If you don't have someone there who has your interest at heart, who is there with you,
you're on your own.
Really.
I had a very bad experience when it came to after birth. Mine was they left the pad in me.
Inside you?
Yeah, inside me. So for day 1, day 2, it was still there. No one told me anything. I didn't even know it was there. Day 3, I started oozing. Day 4, what's happening? So I went to the hospital and then they checked. The pad was actually inside me.
Hold a thought. We need to take a break here. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We got this.
Choosing the right oil makes all the difference. That is why I always choose Frytol. At Wilma, where Frytol is made, each and every worker wakes up with you in mind.
Really?
And for the millions of other homes too. There, the experts ensure every bottle of Frytol is rich with great taste that creates memories to last the lifetime. Frytol is a cholesterol-free oil fortified with vitamin A.
Now I know why you cook with Frytol. Yes, Dad.
Enjoy great tasting meals with Frytol. Frytol. Love your food, love your life. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
We got this.
You're watching We Got This Africa. We're sharing birth experiences. We don't mean to scare you, but things happen that you need to know. And Mary was just telling us about the fact that they left a whole pad inside you.
Yeah.
So how did you find out there was something there?
I was oozing. So it was
Oozing what?
abnormal, like
Blood.
smelling, like it wasn't just. It was bad smell. So husband was like, "Babe, you're smelling." Like I'm like, could it be the bad blood, or what? The 5th day, we're like, let's go and check if something is all right. So we went back to the hospital, and then I complained. She's like, okay, let's check. So put in everything, and then she brought out pad with black blood. So that's what had caused the whole smell. All.
And what did you do?
I complained. I was so furious. We went there. We're like trying to tell them we're going to sue them. They kept on begging. But here we are. We had to let it go. But the only good thing about it was that I didn't have an infection afterwards, because I was very, very close to having an infection. So
5 days.
5 days. 5 days. So I'll have my back, but yet I'm still smelling. I'm cleaning there, yet I'm still smelling.
Charlie, did you have any weird experiences too? You know?
For me, well, I mean, the theater experience was like, I mean, I could relate to what you were saying, that you were like a dead body, because I literally saw death, right, like staring right at me. I knew I was dead, like literally, because I mean, everything that happened surrounding my delivery, I had a nanny like a week before I gave birth, and the nanny collapsed at the hospital. So I was like, wow, I mean, was it meant for me? And the nanny just, yeah, so that means that what? There's no hope for me, really, because she was admitted at the emergency ward for like 3 days, whilst I was also admitted at the maternity ward. So, yeah, so my husband was, moving across. He goes to visit her and comes to visit me, and, yeah, it was tough, and all the nurses were coming to me asking me, oh, mama, so what's the progress? How is she doing? And I'm like, well, I don't know what is happening, but I know she's fine. She had a high blood pressure. So whilst, I mean, I think being with me throughout the days, I'm sure she just passed out. She was tired and overworked. And she had BP medicine she was supposed to take, and she wasn't taking them. So that also contributed to that. So, yeah. In theater, I mean, I literally felt like, okay, I was gone. So one thing held me. I remember the Holy Spirit telling me that, rather than saying, oh, Jesus, save me, save me, save me, why don't you say, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus. Just start thanking him for what he has already done. I mean, so I was crying. I remember them putting like 4 blankets on me and they took something like a sachet water, put it in a microwave or something, heated it, and came to put it inside the blanket just to keep me warm, because I was shivering throughout the process. I was shivering, like I knew that was it. Like I was shivering, and they were cutting me open. My spinal anesthesia made me numb, so I didn't feel what you felt. So I was numb from like my breast downwards. And yeah, so they were operating me. The process didn't really take that much time, but it was sewing, you know, that the place back, that was what was taking a lot of time. So, you know, I was scared throughout, but I mean, I came out well, and I was so thankful to God. Like, I'll never forget that experience, because it made me know that, you know what, I don't have anybody in this world apart from God.
Yeah.
Because husband or like family or anything else, look, at that moment you are on your own. So you need to take God seriously, and it really built my relationship with God afterwards. I realized that, okay, I had just been taking things, you know, a little bit easy. I mean, you know, but I need to step up and really, you know, like do this for me, you know, because I needed it. Yeah, so.
And you know, at that point when all of these are happening to you, like for me, I was thinking, why do they give women so much pressure to have children?
I know, right?
You know, you should have a child if you want to have a child. Because you must really want it. Otherwise, when you go through all that,
You hate the child. If
that can happen. You can resent depression. People resent their husbands. People resent their partners. People resent the child sometimes, and that's a very scary thought for me. So you must really want it. You must want it, because sometimes, I mean, let's not. It's not the fact that everybody has crazy experiences. Some people just sneeze, and the baby's out of there. I mean, my first section was so smooth, you know. So there are very smooth birth experiences that are so cool, and usually it's a first, so you're tempted to do it again. And then the second will show you. But there are very smooth experiences, which we thank God for and we all pray for. But some really weird things can also happen. So I think it's important that as a society we let a woman or the couple make the decision, and they must really want it, because sometimes it is a matter of life and death.
Absolutely.
So if it's a matter of life and death, you must want it that much to do it, because
and it changes your life. I mean,
forever.
Children change your life. I mean, just like you, I had my nanny, so I got a nanny. She started before. So there's one thing I told my husband. I said, look, listen, I would be very bored if I had to stay at home and not work. It's just me. I have too much energy. The guy in me, but it's I just have too much energy. You know?
People.
So I'll be very bored and very disheartened if I had to stay at home. Working for me has never been about money. I just need to put my energy somewhere. You know. So we agreed that we would have to get a nanny so that she could step in and support. You know. But then again, when I was 24, I was told that I had a low egg count. And that means, I mean, for those who don't know, men, if you take care of yourself, you do the right things, barring any discrepancies, you can produce more sperm. But women were born with a certain number of eggs,
and that's all you have for the rest of your life.
So if they tell you have a low egg count, it means that the viable eggs there are even less. So I actually went into marriage thinking that I actually might not be able to have a child or a viable pregnancy. So when I got pregnant with my first child, so yours was 6 months and mine was 2 months into marriage. Look, so I did a maternity shoot, and family members were calling my parents and telling them I'm putting pictures on social media. I said, look, you people don't know what I'm grateful for. You have no idea. Because we got to the point where we were talking about IVF, we had planned freezing eggs, like all those conversations had happened. So now have the first child, and I mean, there are other weird things that happen. So I just didn't get good teeth. My mom has great teeth, my dad doesn't. I took my dad's teeth. So with my son, my teeth became even weaker. My daughter, afterwards, my teeth would break. They would just chip, like I'm eating biscuits or plantain chips, and my teeth would literally chip. Yes. So post that, I'm going to dentists, getting root canals, getting teeth pulled out, teeth replaced. There are lots of things that come with and nobody talks about those things.
Nobody talks about those things. Hair loss, complexion change.
I had bleeding gums. Like my gums were always bleeding.
Every time, every day.
Always bleeding.
You had similar bleeding gums?
Yeah. When I take the brush to brush, I always see blood every day, every blessed day.
Did any of you itch?
I did. I itched.
It got to a point. 3 p.m. office. I'll remove my brown worker. I don't care. Because I was itching.
I was always having the eyes. I always had eyes around.
Eyes?
Yeah, I always had eyes around me, like the blocks. I'll chew them, put them around me just to feel cool and okay.
Because you were hot.
Always hot.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's talk about when the baby comes out. When the baby came out and you saw the pretty baby, how did you feel? That's when we smile.
I don't
boy.
think any
It's a
words
boy.
can really explain it. Like
Yeah.
it was just magical.
It's
like
beautiful.
I feel like, oh wow.
I forgot the
This is
pain.
it. Yeah.
Like I did that.
I remember thinking when I saw my son, I was like, he's perfect. It's like his hair, his fingers, and his toes, and his lips, and I was like, he's perfect. This is it. Thank God. Well, I hope we didn't weird you out. I hope we didn't scare you, and if we did, I'm so sorry. But giving birth is one of the wonders of life.
Yeah.
But it comes with a whole lot of things that you need to know before you step in there, so that things don't shock you too much, like it did some of us. And I hope you've learned something. This is We Got This Africa, and I'm so glad we spoke about this. My name is Naa Ashorkor. Thank you for watching.
Although it's far, make you no give up. It only makes us stronger. Whatever you do, do them well. Make you no worry. We go stay okay, we go be alright. No, Inyami, go chichino. Inyami, bano fe. Inyami, walk on jano. Kenya fe, oh bano fe. Inyami, go chichino. Inyami, bano fe. Inyami, walk on jano. Kenya fe, oh bano fe. Kenya fe, oh bano fe. Kenya fe, oh bano fe. Kenya fe, oh bano fe.
We got this.
Kenya fe, oh bano fe.
We Got This Africa. Proudly brought to you by Frytol. Frytol, you deserve to be well.